Welcome, and thank you for clicking on my video. On this channel, we do some technical analysis for the SPY, Qs, Apple, Tesla, Amazon, NVDA, AMD, and this week we're giving you those weekly ranges for Meta. Now, if you are part of my Patreon, you already received this afternoon's video. We are going to be doing a Wednesday update every single Wednesday, only for the Patreon members, so get a hold of that. It's a great time to join as these monthly expected moves are about to change. We're going to update those after tomorrow. Right now, we're outside of it, but the big thing here is this is not looking good. Yes, it looks like we're waiting for tomorrow's data, and that could easily send us down into this area, or it could send us up into this area. But the fact of the matter is, whichever way this wants to play out, it's not looking good for stocks with the things that we have coming up down the pipeline with Jerome Powell talking to Congress. He feels out of control with inflation. And with that CPI ticking up last time, maybe it's going to tick up again in March, and we'll have to see the reaction of the market to that number. Is the PCE going to tick up because the CPI ticked up as well last month? So that's something to pay attention to. And let's get into some of these stocks, starting off with the SPY. Looking at the SPY here, we notice that we're still getting that gradual selling. Now we're starting to see some fluctuation. We created some kind of continuation triangle. Is that going to break to the downside? Really is dependent on the news tomorrow. I'd highly encourage you to react to that news, not necessarily try to guess which way it's going to go. But if we did want to head lower from here, this would make sense with this consolidation. This consolidation here would actually send us just outside of that daily expected move. Sorry, I'm burping. Just outside of that daily expected move, which could be another fake out. Now, we overall were talking about this in here being some kind of trap, and maybe the GDP was able to launch us up to get a second trap before PCE. That didn't necessarily happen. A lot of people are starting to talk negatively about the PCE. So I know I told you flip like water, but it really seems like if you want to be a contrarian, maybe the PCE comes out in line with expectation, even ticking up a little bit, and we do see a positive reaction, and then that kind of fades throughout the day or going into Friday, considering we might have a government shutdown. So what do we want to pay attention to? Well, we want to pay attention to if we get outside of this range. We've closed within the daily ranges pretty often, which 509.26 to the upside, 503.20 to the downside. So if we do see us get outside of this, we open the door for one of those 32% chances. We've landed in this zone, which we do 68% of the time. But if we do come out of this pretty quickly, it would make sense for us to actually come all the way down into this area, even fill this gap, by tomorrow, because this is all the monthly expectation for stocks, with the options have priced in. They've priced in this amount right here. We're above that pretty significantly. The Qs were in it. We'll get into that. So to the downside, you do have potential here to see a big drop. You really do. And that's why I want you guys to mainly wait for that data to come out. Okay, so this consolidation here, will it maybe lead us to coming outside of that daily, and then we close back in the 68% of the time, because we've been closing in there pretty well. We have good support here with that gap support, with the highs in here. So this little zone in here is going to be very important. As we do see in the post market, we are coming down with that price right now on the SPY. So that's what you can pay attention to. To the bear side, that's really what I'd be thinking for some kind of bounce. If we do get that to roll over and see something more dramatic, if we get another bounce up, we could confirm a lower high and start a negative trend on the hourly chart, but also on a few other bigger charts. So the thing we want to pay attention to the bull side, though, is still this cup. We still have the potential for that cup and handle. This actually would send you about up to here. And if you create that handle right around here, it's good to create that handle right before some resistance. So if we do that, that'll be interesting, but we want to see what that reaction is. Sometimes the first reaction isn't the right one. So if it goes up, sometimes we tear down. Look for divergences early on in the day if we do get excited and come out of this. If we do not create this handle here, we just get really excited. Sure, we can use the top as support and see one of those 32% times where we do go up from there, but I would really like this to continue this structure, get that handle, then go up. That would be a lot healthier for this market. Pay attention to that MACD curling up into positive territory. Q's very similar thing, more looking like a flag at this point. So pretty much we've gotten a fake out to the upside, little fake out to the downside. This was where our daily expected move for today was. It was just below this wick right here, and we saw that buy back up. So we actually closed the day right above our daily expected move, right where we need to, right at this gap support here. So will this be enough support with some good news? Yes, we can get that to go higher, but you notice the daily expected move, not that big. kind of surprising, right around that monthly expected move. So pay attention to this zone here because it's going to be very important. The thing is, when you have two pieces of resistances, you have resistance of a high, you have resistance of the previous high, you have resistance of the monthly expected move. This is the top side. You have the daily expected move. That's a lot of resistances here. So if we really wanted to see strength here, you'd actually like the Qs to gap up and head higher. So that would be the bullish case. Look for that MACD to curl up just like the SPY. Now the bearish case would be that this cup is already completed and all this right here is some kind of handle. We're getting some kind of cupping like this. We get that handle now, and now we can head a little bit lower. So pay attention to our weekly expected move here, 428.75. But for tomorrow, 438.88 to the upside is your range that the options market has priced in. 431.68 to the downside. So really pay attention to these. We could get some kind of fake out in the morning and actually see this go the other way. Really just want to pay attention to if this MACD is able to curl up into positive territory. Apple, from a signal standpoint, you got tons of divergences down here from the hourly perspective, not able to fully get into positive territory. Okay, we did for a moment there, but we turned right back around. That's why I got out of my trade. When we curl over, I do exactly what I'm telling you guys, right? If I see that curl over near negative territory, near that center line on the MACD, I'm out of this trade. I'm taking my 10% and I'm running. I'm glad I did because I would have gotten a little bit eaten alive out of all this price action here. Now we did come back down into this zone right here. Very, very important zone. Saw that buying back up. We actually called this a few days in advance. Once we saw this downturn, we said, hey, look for a touch of this zone. That could show some strength heading forward with some kind of divergence. Guess what? We got another point of divergence here. And now we're starting to make what could be considered a lower or higher low. So we could see some strength here with that good news tomorrow. It's pretty much you have some stocks that are looking like they really, really want to bounce. And then I'd really be paying attention to this gap fill up here. This gap fill up here is going to be important. It's in a zone where we could see some selling come in, and that's something to pay attention to. If we're going to continue to be bullish, we will pull up the higher time frames and let you guys know if that's happening. But we might have a government shutdown, and people could see PCE as good news and then randomly see, uh-oh, we're going to get a government shutdown. Amazon, we're paying attention to similar things. We overall completed this cup. This could be our handle, and we might be heading to lower levels. Look out for that gap to be filled. That gap can get filled. You see an Amazon drop off pretty dramatically right now, most likely with some earnings or something coming out. I believe maybe Salesforce had earnings. But either way, the bearish side here is this is your cup, here's your handle, and guess what? We're going to go fill this gap right down here, right around that 169, 168 price point. Now, if this wanted to curl up the other way with some good news, hey, look for that MACD on the hourly, turn up in positive territory. If this crosses in positive territory, good shot. We're going to test this one. Actually, a good shot that we're going to go try to make a new one before the week is over. So pay attention to Amazon, Tesla. Big thing with Tesla is we keep getting rejected right at this area, right? We were paying attention to this zone after we saw those divergences down here to take this trade. Now we're getting a push up, but is this going to break through? We have a lot of points to pay attention to, but right now you do have some wedging. You have price getting tighter and tighter, and so we're expecting a little bit of a bigger move moving forward if we continue in this ascending triangle here for quite some time. So let's pay attention to that, but overall, you just need to say, hey, we keep getting rejected from this area. That's pretty important. If we're able to gap above that, sure, we can see a little bit more positivity, maybe actually go into more of a channel instead of this triangle, come and fill that gap. I really think that this is unfinished business and they would want to fill that gap before we start to head to lower levels. But as we do see the MACD curling over to the bear side, you can see that negativity come in. But is that negativity going to last, or is it just going to be a pullback on the hourly? Want to pay attention if that does come down. Can it curl back up into positive territory for Tesla to go fill this gap? NVIDIA is going to go nuts tomorrow, and this is where things can get a little bit dicey, and this is not very good because we're seeing all these scenarios where most of them are really saying, at least most of the ones that we're covering here are saying, hey, this could go up, but this could also go down. It could go up, it could go down. So you hate when the market's telling you things like that from a technical standpoint, but we did complete this cup. Is this a small handle to head to lower levels? Really, really want to pay attention to this gap support in here because it lines up with this high. So this little zone in between these highs and that gap support going to be very important. If we do see some downside, look for a bounce around there. But since we don't have that much expected for tomorrow as far as the SPY and Qs go, a little bit dangerous. Could get outside of those daily ranges, and we could be seeing something a little bit more volatile or a little bit more bullish if we get bullish from the news. So if we do get bullish from that news, look for this MACD to curl up, maybe create some kind of divergence. Still want to pay attention to those main levels, 800 and 750. If we start to drop below 750, people might start hitting the sell button because they have a bunch of calls above 800. If we actually go the other way, that would mean that these people at 750 are going way underwater, and we may actually see some kind of squeezing going into the end of the week, maybe to get up towards something like 835. All right, so pay attention to that. AMD, you really just want to kind of treat this like I'm going to follow NVIDIA. That's overall what we're thinking is going to happen with AMD. Got some selling, got a fake out, and we're within it. Now we did drop back down, so is this going to continue going into a negative trend? That would be the downside here, is you're possibly going to come and fill this gap way down here around 164, 165, looking for a reaction there if we do, but is that just going to be a bounce? It kind of leads us into that narrative of Friday after close. Are we going to get that government shutdown? This is just a dead cat bounce to then break through this base that is very, very important. Okay, now if we wanted to curl up, look for NVIDIA on this. If NVIDIA starts to curl up, AMD can too. It's still in positive territory. If that wants to curl up and go for one more push, look for some kind of move outside of this zone, and then I'll be paying attention for some divergences up there. Meta, as of right now, we gave you those weekly ranges for Meta at this point, 502.42 to the upside, 465.56 to the downside, right next to that gap. So we easily could come down to that area tomorrow with some volatility in this market. The big thing here is we have two scenarios that are pretty similar. So we do have this cup that is filled here. Is this some kind of big handle to actually head to lower levels? Are we getting something like this going on to actually head down to lower levels? That would be the bearish case here, but it really depends on that PCE news. So if we actually got bullish, this would be our cup. Maybe this is actually our handle at this point, and we actually could go higher. So this is what I'm talking about. It's not looking good because one, you have stocks that look like they could go either way tomorrow, very difficult for a trader. And then also you have a lot of events coming up. If there's a government shutdown, that is bad. If Congress asks the right questions, we could see some commentary from Jerome Powell next week. That's bad, especially if it's related to anything they said in the FOMC minutes about not feeling in control of that inflation. And then we also have CPI coming around the corner that could also be ticking up again, which would really start to set off some fireworks. The VIX from an hourly perspective, sure, we've been seeing some selling, but you notice that overall people are pretty bullish. Now, this could be starting to head higher as we are creeping up into positive territory for the VIX. So really just paying attention to the short-term trend, seeing if we're able to break above that, maybe break up, get some kind of retest and start going. Really want this to, if you're to the bull side, you want the VIX to roll over to the downside here, see that come down and fill this gap at this reading of about 1290. That would actually give you a pretty good divergence here right before that government shutdown, and then maybe that's what pushes us into positive territory on the VIX. So it's just not looking very good from a bullish perspective in the over the next few weeks, but that doesn't mean we can't be bullish. We still follow the signals to a T, and we react based on the data we're getting and based on the signals that we are seeing. The main takeaway here is things could get a little shaky, and we don't necessarily have too many clues. We have ways that we could go up, we have ways that we could go down tomorrow, and we don't have the biggest expected move. So be prepared for any kind of gap that could happen with that news. If it does come out flat, I'm expecting more positivity as we are in a positive trend, but look out because we may be getting some kind of trap to the downside early on throughout this week. We may get a trap to the upside and then get some kind of government shutdown, or Jerome Powell talking a little bit bearish next week with Congress. Thank you guys so much for watching. A ton of people joining the Patreon. I'm going to have to shout people out on the live video tomorrow. I'll shout you out. So join me on the live video tomorrow. I'll shout out some of our new Patreon members. Make sure to give me some feedback. I know I did that weekly update a little bit quick, but we're going to get better at it as we go and give you that weekly update every single Wednesday. That way we can point out some trade ideas that we are seeing around these weekly expected moves, around these monthly expected moves as well. Thank you so much for joining. Really, really do appreciate it. You guys like, subscribe, you guys do all the things because you guys are just awesome all around. And I'll see you guys live tomorrow morning for PCE, where I'm planning on waking up early. We'll see if that's able to happen. I'm trying to wake up to be there by 7:30, be live with you guys. Thank you so much for joining. I wish you all the luck in the world trading tomorrow, and I hope you have a great, great night. Peace.